Ranking Member Graves for the opportunity to testify before you today. And I'd like to take this opportunity to highlight an issue that's particularly important to my constituents in Rhode Island and to workers and businesses across the country that's investing in a skilled infrastructure workforce. I'm certainly encouraged by your plans to craft robust infrastructure legislation to strengthen our communities and stimulate our economy. I certainly echo the words of the majority leader and the need for infrastructure investment and your comments as well, Mr. Chairman, and in particular Rhode Island. I know that we have some of the greatest infrastructure needs in the country, and our needs, of course, are indicative of those of every congressional district across the country. But rebuilding our nation's infrastructure will also require more than investments in bridges, roads, waterways, and broadband. It will require a workforce that can design, build, and maintain them. So therefore, as the committee works to craft its infrastructure agenda over the coming months, I urge you to consider investments in improvement workforce development strategies, including career and technical education and apprenticeships, to prepare our workers to realize these opportunities that are ahead of us. So just by way of example, the Brookings Institution estimates that 3 million more workers will be needed to support the nation's infrastructure over the next 10 years, including designing, building, and operating transportation, housing, utilities, and telecommunications. However, Georgetown University estimates that with a $1 trillion federal infrastructure investment, we'd more than double the number of required high-skilled workers. So this is a great opportunity for millions of Americans who are out of work, underemployed, or seeking higher wages. However, without adequate skills training, these workers won't be prepared to fill open jobs and carry out high-priority infrastructure projects. So I'm not alone in my concern. In fact, on March 6, 2018, during a hearing in this committee on the President's infrastructure proposal, Transportation Secretary Chow testified, and I quote, "We probably will not have enough skilled trades workers to be able to address all the infrastructure needs when it finally gets all going. So the workforce training and retraining part is important," end quote. So many of these jobs do not require a bachelor's degree, but they do involve a significant amount of on-the-job training. CTE and apprenticeships are proven strategies that give individuals the education and work-based learning they need for success in these high-skilled, higher-wage career fields. Now, last July, Congress recognized CTE and apprenticeships as effective workforce development strategies when we unanimously reauthorized the Carl D. Perkins Career and Technical Education Act, which the President subsequently signed into law last July. This bipartisan victory demonstrated Congress's renewed commitment to skills-based education in high-demand industries, and I certainly hope that the committee will continue moving this trend forward. Specifically, I would ask that you include in any infrastructure package a requirement that states devote a portion of any funds they receive to workforce development programs, including career and technical education, with the flexibility to invest in programs that they deem appropriate through coordination with local workforce boards. So I also request that you include incentives for infrastructure-related businesses that invest in work-based learning, including apprenticeship programs and dedicated resources for updating the facilities and equipment used in CTE programs that train students for employment in infrastructure jobs. So each of these components is critical to building a workforce ready to fill millions of high-skilled jobs over the next decade. And my fellow co-chair of the Career and Technical Education Caucus, Representative G.T. Thompson from Pennsylvania, and I will also be sending an official letter to you and the ranking member in support of these investments. And, Mr. Chairman, I'd ask unanimous consent to include a copy of the letter text in the record.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With that, Chairman DeFazio and Ranking Member Graves, I want to thank you for the opportunity to testify and for considering these sensible bipartisan requests. With that, with 16 seconds left on the clock, I yield back the balance.